Amen. Commissioners, you've seen the agenda for the forum. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I move we adopt the agenda.
I have a motion from Commissioner Alexander. Do I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Dasher has seconded it. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes carry. Agenda adoption is done. The public comment section is open. So the floor is open and the mic's open.
Hi, guys. My name is Gary Higgins. I'm on the agenda for tonight. I just wanted to reintroduce myself. I was here, I guess, about 14 months ago, and you guys, I think it was February, that granted me an easement to get to this property. At the time when I came to the meeting in October, I didn't own the property yet. I had it tied up until I was granted the easement. And then when you granted the easement, I closed the deal. And when I learned when I was trying to get a grading permit to do the driveway, I learned that it's not possible under the present ordinances, Town of Montreat. That's why, I was kind of like, I felt the goalpost got moved on me a little bit. So I just wanted to introduce you and put a face to what it is. It's one house for me and my wife, and we close to our grandkids. Presently, we live in Idaho, and it's a little bit cold. It's a little bit far from the grandkids, so we want to get closer and get a little bit. This is like Hawaii compared to where we live, and I live in a forest basically in Idaho, and we want to keep it like a forest where we're going to build this house and minimal damage to the trees or no grading except for the driveway. We're going to build it on the slope. And it's, and that's kind of our dream to get this going. And unfortunately, it's taken a little while for me to get an engineer, no fault of anybody else, it's just everybody's busy. I finally got that, and we're kind of moving forward. And then Kayla, informed me that I'm running into the problem with this ordinance doing anything within 30 feet of a stream. I'd like to remind you guys that the Army Corps has no problem with it. It's covered under a blanket permit. And so is DEQ, has no problem with that. I have emails that Kayla has the whole file to that effect. So it really comes down to the Town of Montreat. So I just want to express, I sent you guys emails, and I'm just really concerned because right now I have a piece of property that I purchased with all the stuff that I put into it, and it's worthless. So that's it. Thank you.
I understand, Gary. We'll have a public hearing on changing that ordinance later in the meeting, in the regular meeting, and you'll probably want to speak again then. Anyone else?
Good evening. I'm Brad Hester. I'm chair of the tree board. That's only indirectly relevant to what I have to say to this evening. I'm going to pass out these flyers. I'm basically wanting to spread the news about this event that the American Chestnut Foundation is providing. It's dated on March 19th, as the flyer says. This valley, as well as the woods all around us, 100 years ago was on the brink of falling into oblivion as far as chestnuts are concerned. And today you have to look very hard to find a thriving chestnut tree. But if you go into Anderson Auditorium, all the pews there are made out of chestnuts. You can get a sense about the wonderful value that was there. And about, I think it's in the early 80s, the American Chestnut Foundation was formed with the purpose of bringing the chestnut back, using whatever science is necessary to achieve that goal. And they've taken a variety of approaches. Hybrids with Chinese resistant strains, for example, is one of the major approaches that has been used. But there's also been some more modern, more genetic kinds of approaches that are being used. And there's a lot of optimism that we will ultimately succeed. Not in our lifetimes. I don't think this will be a project that is finished within the next few decades even. but I think it's headed in the right direction. The Chestnut Foundation is inviting us to this. It's really kind of a pair of events on March 19th. The first part of it is in a park in Asheville, West Asheville Park. And what they're going to do is train people on how to plant and care for chestnuts. And the other side of that first earlier afternoon thing is also care for food forest maintenance. You know, when trees are in the forest are providing food, that it's important to human beings and animals and all. There's going to be training on what to be aware of when you're concerned about that sort of thing. A little bit later, an hour or so later, the venue moves to Asheville Pizza and Brewing on Merriman Avenue. There, the regional scientists and some of the other scientific staff from the Chestnut Foundation will be present, sharing conversation over pizza, I assume, but followed up by watching a movie about this. They've done a very nice documentary called Clear Day Thunder, in which they talk about the history of all this and what's being done. And I think this is a great opportunity for people in Montreat area to become better informed about it, because in order to really get chestnuts back here in this community, not only do these things need to happen, but we also need to be aware of it. And I think we need to get organized around what we living here in this can do to help bring the chestnut back sometime down the road.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate you doing that, and thanks for all the work you and the tree board do. Anyone else? Mary?
Mary Sander, 118 Shenandoah Terrace, Black Mountain or Montreat, depending on which particular government agency you're speaking to. Which brings me to the question that I have for this evening. This is an election year, and I think we have 3 slots coming up on town council this year, but this is nonpartisan. But more importantly, we have early voting starts for the primaries on February 15th, which is 1 week from tonight. And what started all this many years ago, this duality of where do we actually live, was generated by the photo ID issue. And we have, after many years of going back and forth, we are currently still at a situation in the photo ID is going to be used this time. So my very specific question for council, is there going to be any problem, or have you made sure that the fact that our driver's license, our photo ID, government issues states that we live in Montreat, North Carolina, 28757, our voter registration cards, which is also government issue, says very specifically that we live in the town of Black Mountain and with a different zip code. So that's my question on this issue before you tonight.
Mary, I don't have an answer, but we'll follow up and get you an answer. I don't anticipate being a problem, never has been before.
This is the first time the photo ID has
Right.
come into play. So I think the council a few years ago asked that private citizens not ask questions
Right.
of other agencies. That was a very specific request, which I have honored. A little bit hard for me, you guys know me, but I came tonight to make sure that that was on your radar and to see if anything had been done. I am hopeful too that there won't be any issues with that, but for those who have inquiring minds, thank you.
We'll follow up on that, Mary. Thank you. Anyone else? No one else is going to speak. We're going to, yes, Mary?
It's Mary Standard, 118 Shenandoah, once again. My question...
Montreat or Black Mountain?
Whichever you want me to be. I can vote both places, maybe.
Right into that one, Mary.
Yes, no, I anticipated it and appreciate the irony of it as well. So at any rate, I wanted to get a little, I know there's going to be a public hearing tonight, but we don't do question and answer during the public hearing. So I just wanted to get a little better focus, maybe from what the plans are. I know it involves, is there a bridge or a driveway? And culvert, because it.
Just like any other driveway in Monterey.
Vehicle, and that wasn't, it was a beautifully written exposition, I guess, the right word, by Kayla. And I tried really hard to follow it, but it's difficult so I just wanted, the plans are for it to be a culvert. And sort of my question with that, there are multiple lots that are in that same situation up there on Harmony. So how would they be addressed if this is put in?
They would have the opportunity also to put a culvert, I'm sure, like any other driveway that has a creek running in front of it.
Okay, so it could be a number running, okay, a number of lots putting in a culvert up there if it becomes an ordinance.
If they sell. The MRA has them up for sale, I'm pretty sure.
Some of them are in private ownership, if I
They
remember
may well
correctly.
be,
So
but I
mean,
asked Kayla the other day if she was showing me on the map, and she said that those lots, some of those lots all those lots are not sold up there, are they? No.
but
Okay.
have passed into private
Yeah.
hands over the years and coming through that.
Yeah.
And will that open up further lots on the other side of Harmony, where there's more
Now,
public
that I don't know.
space?
Is there a creek on the other side of Harmony?
Or will it open them up to green spaces, public spaces, that whole swath above Linwithia?
So the focus of the text amendment is to remove the built-upon area buffer. The specific situation that initiated the text amendment was so that Mr. Higgins could construct a driveway directly to his property through an easement that the town granted. As far as other crossings of that water body, they would require an easement from the town. So it wouldn't just be, they can do so. The easement that Mr. Higgins was granted is for his property. It does not extend to the other properties. It runs the length of his property only.
But it does set precedent, and so my question is sort of, and so this can't go to Board of Adjustments?
It doesn't need to.
It's not.
What we're proposing tonight is to change the ordinance. Corps of Engineers has approved it, State of North Carolina has approved it, but our ordinance does not allow it in the verbiage that's in there right now under
Okay.
that particular thing. So we're just going to change it. I'd say we're going to change. We're going to debate or talk about changing it.
And I mean, and certainly that's fine to do. It's just, is there a precedent setting? Just since you can't answer, the only reason I'm bringing it up now is you can't respond to my questions during the public,
I think
hearing.
it probably sets a precedent, Mary, for the rest of the lots on that same side of the street that may have to cross the creek. If we allow one, we should be able to allow the others. And changing the ordinance, then they have to go through the same things that he went through getting a permit. It'd have to be reviewed by the state and the Corps of Engineers, and then it would meet approval of the town ordinance if we change the ordinance.
but it's not necessarily restricted just to the Harmony lots, if other lots came up as well.
Every piece of property in Montreat will be governed and have the same rights that are granted under
Tonight.
the ordinance revision tonight.
That's what I'm just sort of trying to understand myself, and y'all are the elected officials, so y'all make those decisions along the way. So thank you very much.
Kayla, do you know how many other lots are in that line on that east side of?
Not off the top of my
Harmony.
head.
When you and I looked at it the other day, it looked like 5 or 6.
What's on GIS is not necessarily representative of the actual land division. I don't have the number in front of me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Good seeing you again.
So I'm Shirley Mitchell, 201 Harmony Lane. When I have looked at those lots, only one was privately owned, and that's the one that Mr. Higgins has bought. So I don't think anything's been done with the others. And initially, I guess what was granted to him was that his passageway over the creek had to allow the two adjacent lots to his, if they were built on, to use his crossway initially. If the MRA chose to sell all those lots, a road could be put up, you go up towards the water tower and drop down if they wanted to make some money.
Yeah, I specifically recall mentioning and discussing that it would be highly preferable for the health of the creek there, when we talked about it, Mr. Higgins, of just one crossing to service all of those lots, because a repeated number of crossings, because there were a number of lots. I don't know what the impact, it may be no impact to have 6 crossings there. I don't know, but I'm understanding tonight that at least Kayla has indicated that no other lots, nor the Mountain Retreat Association, have a right to grant anybody access over that. The other reason I mentioned that at the time, besides limiting the amount, was to create a mechanism. I sort of used to do this as an attorney in a number of instances, to create a pot of money to maintain whatever crossing is there, okay? And to maintain its integrity after the inevitable flooding events that we have here that will wash out often structures. So it provides a maintenance function. And I don't know, Mr. Higgins, whether you pursued that or had any discussions at all with Mountain Retreat Association about that. No, okay, thanks.
So then I also would like to ask if it's appropriate, Mr. Higgins, he mentioned that he had had a number of costs, and I wondered what those were, and that it's never really been approved for the crossing. He said he had a lot of, yeah.
So you talk about costs. I bought the property, I own the property. I had surveying costs, I had engineering costs, I had attorney fees, and it just starts, as you realize, it also starts adding up. And right now I have something that's worth 0. And I feel that I was graciously granted by you guys this easement. And the understanding was get a grading permit to build the driveway. This is serving one house, and we'll be good to go. Now, you mentioned about, or you guys were talking about other properties being served. With that terrain, building that, I don't think you're going to get anything wider than a 12-foot driveway with that easement. It's not going to happen. So I don't think it's feasible, that access to other lots, unless you widen the easement and did some massive grading. Right now, I'm going to do minimal disturbance. And that's my goal, to do minimal disturbance. I don't want it to look like a war zone. I want it to look like that thing's been there for years. And that's kind of where I'm at. Does that sort of answer your question?
Yes, yes.
Okay, but I mean, it adds up. You start, I bought the property, and I had to have a survey, I had to have a legal description, I had to pay for all this stuff that happened, and I'm not complaining, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I understand.
And here I am, and then when I go to I had a preliminary drawing for the grading plan, and it was, right off the bat, not off the bat, I think it was December, she gave me the sad news, hey, you can't do this. So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, we're at trying to fix that tonight.
That's
Okay.
all I'm saying, that's where I'm at.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I've got about 10 minutes to 7, which our regular meeting will start. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn until 7 o'clock at our regular meeting time. Do I have a motion? Have a motion from Commissioner Widmer. Have a second?
Second.
Second. Commissioner Blake, Mayor Pro Tem Blake, excuse me. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. We stand adjourned until 7. Folks, according to my watch, I have 7 o'clock. If everyone will stand and face the flag, please. And we will say together the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing. Bow your heads. Amen. Commissioners, you have the agenda. We've changed it several times, and I think it's up to date now. So if I can have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Have a motion from Commissioner Widmer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Dasher. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. As you folks have probably noticed, the winds have played havoc with the cell tower this year, and it's looking a little naked up there. And I know that the agreement that Mary and Martha and other commissioners worked on for years was that if it was placed up there, that it would be kept up and so forth, and it has not been. So I've asked Commissioner Dasher to work with Savannah Parish and with Kayla and see if we can't get something done about getting it dressed back again. So we are putting an effort forth on that, and Grant will bird dog that for us, okay? You want to cover the consent agenda, Savannah, please, and your comments?
Sure. So for the consent agenda, we have adoption of minutes, which are the public forum meeting minutes from January 11th and the town council meeting minutes also from January 11th.
Do you have any other items under your communication?
I do. I just want to briefly give an update about the comp plan implementation. I know that there have been members of the public asking how we're going to move forward now that the comp plan has been adopted. Back in October, the town council met in a retreat setting to review their priorities. All of that conversation was informed by the comp plan. So they identified their priorities for the next 12 to 24 months. And then we also, I want to mention that the Planning and Zoning Commission is also working on the implementation of items that were assigned to them in the comp plan. And they actually have a document that is tracking their progress on the items that they were assigned. So we haven't said much about it up till now, and I know folks are curious, but be looking for more. I think especially as we start talking about the budget and planning for next fiscal year, we will be referencing the comp plan more often.
Thank you, Savannah. Is that it?
That's all for me.
Okay, Commissioners, you have received reports from the administration, from the Planning and Zoning, Police, Public Works and Water, Sanitation, Streets, Finance is pending, and the January building permit information. Are there any questions or comments on any of those?
I just had one question, and I apologize, but under streets, what are, Barry, what are contracted employee staff hours? What is that? And we had
Is that first?
I'm sort of guess what it is, but I'd like to know what it is. No, it's under streets.
Yes, sir. That's the first employees, and that's when we were using them in the, several years ago. And we're going to work on a few other things in this, and we're going to change that to the sanitation side. So it is the first employees that we're using for sanitation right now.
Okay, they're just listed under streets.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And before you leave, on page 16 of the packet, under the Water and Public Works report, gallons of water produced. In 23, for the month of January, there were 2.85 million gallons produced. In January of 24, there were 3.8, more than a million more gallons produced. I'm just wondering what happened, why the big difference? Are you tracking it better, or what's the situation?
Well, we've had several main breaks over the last month, several 6-inch water main breaks. And a couple of them have been quite substantial. And I believe that's where you're going to see the difference right here.
So that's water that was produced, but not sold.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. Yes, sir. I think we've had 6 or 7 main breaks all over town, and it's that time of the year where the ground, what we call walks, and we've had several ductile iron pipes that have busted, so.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions on any of the administrative reports? Hearing none, it's time for public comment. Name, address, and your public comments, please.
Mary Standard, still unsure about where I live, but at any rate, 118 Shenandoah Terrace. I really want to commend and highlight the mayor's response to the cell tower, and look forward to Grant working with South Carolina Home and making sure that that is brought back to some sort of different look than it has at the moment. Thank you very much.
I don't think people realize the kind of winds we get up here, but they sure have played havoc with the cell tower this year. Anyone else on the public comments? Martha?
Thank you. Martha Campbell, 149 Maryland Place. I won't name a town. I noticed that tonight there's going to be a discussion about the fund balance. And I have some experience with our fund balance and with the percents that are recommended both by the state and the ones that we have traditionally had in Montreat. And I want to continue to recommend the 35% fund balance. 35% of our budget is nothing like 35% of Asheville's budget or Charlotte's budget or other cities, municipalities' budgets. But we know that, and Barry mentioned the winds and the water mains and all the things that happen, the trees down, extra hours needed and extra costs. And we need to continue to be prepared to have emergency expenses as well as additional expenses that are incurred. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda then. Under old business, there is no old business. Under new business, Swannanoa Valley Tree Alliance Treasured Tree Program. Ed Kramer.
Okay, thank you. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to just read from some remarks here. I'm Ed Kramer, and I am one of the 3 members at large on the tree board. And when I went on the tree board, Chairman Hester asked that the members choose an area of interest, so I chose education. I made contact with the Swannanoa Valley Tree Alliance and attended a number of the meetings. I was introduced to their very successful Treasure Tree program, and I think you have a brochure in front of you that explains the program very well.
It's in their package.
Okay,
yes.
okay. So if the town commissioners approve the town's participation in the program, we will officially be listed as a participant along with the towns of Black Mountain, Swannanoa, Camp Rockmont, Veterans Park, and the Black Mountain Greenway. In October of 2023, representatives of the Swannanoa Valley Tree Alliance, the tree board, and Montreat's arborist, Dan Wiggs, walked Assembly Drive looking for trees that fit the SVTA definition of a treasure tree. And that's in the brochure, which I guess you'll have to take a look at later and see how they determine what the treasure tree is. 14 trees in Montreat were identified and approved by the SVTA as qualifying. They include, I'll just give you a list of the type of trees. There are American sycamores, cucumber, magnolias, eastern hemlocks, white oaks, tulip tree, northern red oak, red maple, black gum, and a pignet hickory. They are going to be considered part of the Treasure Tree program in Montreat. Montreat resident Joe Standard, as a professional courtesy, took photos of the trees with their leaves as the final qualification for approval. The trees are identified by affixing a specially designed plaque on the tree. And you probably don't have this, but it's a plaque which has springs on it when it gets attached to the tree. So when the tree does grow over the years, it grows with the tree. Okay. In fact, right here at the corner of Flat Creek and Montreat Road, there is a treasure tree with a plaque on it. This tree is about 150, 170 years old. So in the daylight, take a look at it. And that's the kind of program we're going to be involved in. The tree plaque will identify the tree, the age, the species, and there'll be a QR code with additional information about the tree. Another handout, but it's in your packet, along with the individual sponsor of the treasure tree, which, since you don't have it in front of you, I won't.
We do.
Oh, do you have it? Okay.
Yeah.
So if it looks something like this, you have that. And then in the corner will be the Montreat town logo. Okay, let me continue. Okay, the plaque will identify the tree, the age, the species, the QR code with the additional information about the tree, along with an individual sponsor of the treasure tree. Now, this is the best part. The cost of the town is zero. Okay? The cost of the town is zero. The plaques do cost $50 with the intention of getting individuals to donate the cost of the plaque along with a one-time donation in honor or in memory of someone or something. Okay? There is no continued maintenance cost, and the money raised would go to the town for additional educational programs. Additionally, a walking tour of Montreat's treasure trees along with the town arborist could also serve as a fundraiser for the tree board. Yesterday, I presented the program to the Land Care Committee, and they were enthusiastic about possibly including the treasure tree walking tour in Montreat on their scheduled plant sale arbor program event day. Being part of the SVTA will also open funding opportunities for Montreat with Buncombe County's tree program and other nonprofit nature and environmental organizations. But there is one issue that still needs to be resolved if the town commissioners approve the town's participation in the program. I need to get signed releases from all the property owners where the trees are located, the town's right-of-ways, the MRA, college, and other private property owners. I don't think that'll be a problem since all we are going to be doing is affixing a plaque on the tree. And the SVTA actually has a standard release form that we can use. Montreat's participation in this program fulfills one of the tree board's main responsibilities of tree education for our residents. Montreat's treasure trees would be included on the official SVTA treasure tree walking map, which you should have there in front of you. And the map, as you can see, is both an educational tool and a well-defined nature walk for our residents and their enjoyment. So I ask that the commissioners approve our participation in the SVTA treasure tree program.
Thanks, Ed.
Okay.
Don't step away, Ed. Commissioners, any questions of Ed?
I'd just like to thank Ed. I served with Ed on the tree board. He's done a great job of pursuing this program and has done all the work single-handedly. I think it's be a terrific thing for the city, and I want to thank you, Ed.
Any other questions or comments?
I underscore what he said. I love your enthusiasm for Montreat, for trees, so thank you. But, you know, we have a ton of tulip poplars. We have, I've got 5 in my yard. There are sycamores everywhere. So are all of these trees going to have plaques on them?
The 14 that they identified will have plaques on them.
Okay,
Yes.
so they identified 14.
They identified 14 trees, and I listed the species of the makeup of the 14 trees. And they have to meet a certain criteria, other than they look pretty. And that's in the brochure that you have in front of you.
Yeah.
Why this sycamore is considered a treasure tree and that sycamore is not considered a treasure tree. And they made the determinations, we didn't.
Gotcha.
They did.
Okay. Well, my sycamore is beautiful, and I hope it was one of them.
We'll get your house on a walking tour.
I have all the property addresses right here. It may be.
That vicious dog of yours might attack people coming to look at the sign. Any other questions or comments, commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval?
Second.
Have a motion to approve. Have a second from Commissioner Alexander. Motion was from Mayor Pro Tem Mason Blake. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Montreat is now a member of the Swannanoa Valley Tree Alliance Treasured Tree Program.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Item B under new business is the Flat Creek Crossing update and approval of Swannanoa Valley Endowment Fund grant application. Jean,
Thank you.
this is Jean Norris.
Jean Norris, 192 Mississippi Road, Secretary Treasurer of Land Care and serving on the Flat Creek Crossing Steering Committee, also as treasurer, which is why I'm here. When we brought to you about a year ago a grant proposal to the Department of Justice, EEG grant for $50,000, many people appreciated that proposal. And so did the EEG. Unfortunately, they did not appreciate it enough to fund it. But they recommended another grant source, which is Pigeon River Fund, which is not the one we're coming with to you tonight. But Pigeon River Fund will be the next application, and we'll have it for your next meeting. When we realized what the deadline dates for the several grants that we're looking at were coming up faster than we thought, and we had to have the lead time for this meeting, we went into overdrive to try to get this proposal together. And we did not know at that point very well how to use their online system. So I have brought to you 3 substitute pages which now reflect correct information since I learned how to get into the system and fix it. So you have the cover page, which has correct information for the town and for Savannah. And you have page number 3, which has text that we meant to include and failed to for the first box on page 3, and modified text that now works better with the text in box 2 and box 3. If you had time to look at that, which you did not, I'm sorry, you would see that the changes are not substantive. They are stylistic. They change emphasis a little bit. They improve flow a little bit. We have not yet been able to talk to the program officer for this grant, which is highly recommended. It'll be next week before we'll be able to do that. So what I am seeking tonight is your approval to proceed with this grant, with the changes that you have in front of you, and the potential for small additional changes after we can talk to the program officer. We don't know whether there are things that we should emphasize a little more or a little less. The other thing that I need to tell you about the budget, this is a very much reduced format for the budget that is in this proposal compared to the previous one. The total numbers are not different. The arrangement is different because we've chosen to emphasize in this proposal the ability to get started with something sooner that will break ground, that will show our town and our eager community that we're getting something done. So if we get this proposal, the plan is that we would start actually breaking ground at the site right over here, doing boulder movement and creating planting pockets and steps down to the future picnic area, doing the heavy work that requires big equipment before you lay the trail. The trail itself will also be quite an expensive proposition, but once it's down, we don't want the heavy equipment and the boulder moving happening anymore. So that is our proposed plan, and I can entertain questions. I would be happy to.
All right, commissioners, you've heard the presentation. Do you have any questions of Jean or comments?
What's the deadline on submission?
March 1st. So we still have a couple of weeks to tinker, but we don't have time to bring it back to you again before Savannah signs off on it.
And I also noticed that you had in your funding budget, the Pigeon River Fund, and it says pending. Is that committed by them?
It is not committed, no, but we know that by the time the committee is looking at this, we will have submitted the Pigeon River Fund, and that's
Okay.
why we chose to say it that way. There were others we could have listed, but it would have taken more time to decide how much money and so forth than we were prepared to get in before tonight. But there are others that we will be going after.
Gotcha, thank you.
Any other questions of Gene's commissioners? Do I have a motion then to approve the Swannanoa Valley Endowment Fund grant application?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the Swannanoa Valley Endowment Fund grant application as submitted, allowing for minor changes as needed.
I have a motion from Commissioner Widmer. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second from Mayor Pro Tem Blake. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the work y'all are doing.
There is one other. I also really want to thank Savannah for working with us in our fundraising efforts. She has created a QR code, which we are going to be putting on the Land Care website and putting in pledge materials and other forms that will allow people to log into the town and make donations directly into the town, identifying themselves and the purpose. And we're really looking forward to being able to use that more. And it's been used once. I did it.
Thank you, Gene.
Good job, Gene.
We have item B. Really should be item C, shouldn't it? Oh, okay, I caught you. We have a text amendment, public hearing. Kayla?
Good evening, everybody. Josh is going to pull my PowerPoint up. I know Mr. Higgins, who is the applicant, him and his engineer, Wyatt Edsel. I don't think Wyatt's here. Okay. So you've heard a little bit from Mr. Higgins. I'm going to give a background of the request and the town's current ordinance. Okay. All right. So this is a text amendment application TA 202401. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kayla DiChristina, and I'm the town zoning administrator. Next slide, please. All right, so the Montreat zoning ordinance, section 602, dictates that you can't build on a piece of land unless you have legal access to the lot. There are 3 requirements for that access. It has to be 12 feet wide, passable by vehicular traffic, and an easement of record and appurtenant for the lot that it provides access to. The property owner, Mr. Higgins, who you have heard a little bit from during public comment, owns a lot on the eastern side of Harmony Lane on the other side of Little Piney Branch. It's separated from Harmony Lane, which is the nearest public street, by Little Piney Branch. Mr. Higgins came before the Board of Commissioners on February 9th, 2023, to request an access easement across Little Piney Branch to connect his the lot that he owns to Harmony Lane. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
Yeah, you got it. All right, so the Montreat General Ordinance, Chapter K, Article 3, defines built-upon area as the portion of a development project that's covered by impervious or partially impervious surface, and this includes things like driveways, roads, parking lots. Chapter K, Article 3, Section 305.1 has a built-upon area buffer that's a minimum of 30 feet landward on either side of any surface water that is perennial or intermittent. And so that would include Little Piney Branch. So this is where Mr. Higgins is running into the snag. He has legal right to access his lot via Harmony Lane through that easement that the Board of Commissioners granted him. However, he cannot construct a driveway across the stream because of the built-upon area buffer. Next slide, please. All right, so Little Piney Branch is subject to the Section 305.1 restrictions. The stormwater ordinance does not permit variances. So somebody asked earlier why this couldn't go to the Board of Adjustment. That's why there is no process for variances in the stormwater ordinance. The applicant submitted this text amendment to allow exceptions to the built-upon area restriction to be granted by the stormwater administrator for impervious driveway or walkway access to residential development when there is a lack of practical alternatives for road crossing, bridge, or utility crossings. This is not a blanket approval to cross any intermittent or perennial stream. This is specifically for residential development for driveway or walkway access when there is no other practical alternative. So it is very limited to a very specific situation. So the applicant's proposed text amendment would not permit structures associated with residential development, so things like houses, additions, anything that is impervious and part of a structure, that would not be permitted to encroach into this buffer or cross it. It also would not permit non-residential development to utilize this exception. So as I said, this text amendment narrowly defines what the exception would apply to. In my staff report, I looked at several jurisdictions, almost all of them in Western North Carolina that regulate stormwater, which Montreat does through the MS4 permit. Those who operate local stormwater management programs have exceptions in their ordinances for situations like this. So this text amendment is not uncommon in other places. Next slide, please. So this is the language that's currently there. Just to summarize, what it says is all built upon area shall be in a minimum of 30 feet landward on all sides of surface water that are perennial or intermittent. Next slide, please. The applicant's proposed language adds a subsection under 305.1, and it says, in essence, that the stormwater can grant an exception from the built upon area requirement, so that 30-foot buffer for perennial and intermittent surface waters for driveway or walkway access to residential development when there is a lack of practical alternatives. As long as it is located, designed, constructed, and maintained to minimize impervious surface, protect against erosion and sedimentation, and have the least adverse effect on aquatic life and habitat, and also protect water quality to the maximum extent practical through the use of BMPs. Next slide, please. The town's legal counsel, Susan Taylor Ash, also had an opportunity to provide proposed language. This is her language. It's very similar to the applicant's. It does expand on it a little bit and provides some more details as to what the applicant would need to provide in order for the stormwater administrator to grant this exception. I will note that the town's legal counsel's language does include the requirement of providing a letter from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality and the United States Army Corps of Engineers, who are the two entities that regulate disturbance in regulated waters of the U.S. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to show some images of what an example of a stream crossing of this nature would look like. I drove around town to try to find some town examples. One example is the Texas Road Extension Bridge. A lot of it is road crossings that the town currently has in place. Next slide, please. Okay, the Board of Commissioners action. So this piece of regulation is in the Montreat General Ordinance. That's why it's coming to the Board of Commissioners directly. Section 160D, 601A of the North Carolina General Statute states that before adopting, amending, or repealing any ordinance or development regulation, the governing body shall hold a properly noticed legislative hearing, which is what we're doing tonight. Section 160D 604 does say that the governing body can refer the proposed amendment to the Planning and Zoning Commission for review and comment before making their final decision. Next slide, please. And that's all I've got on behalf of staff. Do y'all have any questions?
Thank you, Kayla. Before we go any further, though, Commissioners, I need a motion to open this public hearing.
Just rewind everything I said.
I move to open the public hearing.
I have a motion to open. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second, Commissioner Alexander. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Any questions of Kayla?
Kayla, do you have an extra copy of the Susan Taylor Rash's revisions to the original?
Yes, I can make a copy of it if you'd
Okay.
like, or you can borrow mine.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to close the public hearing then, unless anyone in the audience wishes to speak to it. Come on.
Is that it for staff? Yeah.
Yes, Jane?
Jane Norris, 192 Mississippi Road. I admire the work that went into putting this together, all of the background from all the other towns. It looks almost like putting together a scientific paper, and it's a tour de force. And I feel for the applicant who wants to have a driveway to his house. The thing that I didn't see in here that I really wanted to see, and I plowed through this at record speed, it was an effort to get through it all. I did not see any assessment of how many such lots would be affected. Not only lots that are privately owned right now, but lots that are platted and could be privately owned within Montreat and in the ETJ. Because I think that putting shall language like this flatly into the ordinance may open a can of worms that is not exactly what we want in Montreat. I'd really like to see it considered a little more, thought about a little more, and maybe sending it to the other body that you can send it to might be a way to get just a little more thought into the process. I don't want to see this man denied the ability to build his house. I really don't. But I do want the town to think seriously about what happens next and next and next and next. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Jane. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Higgins.
I might be wrong, but my understanding is the easement was granted to me, and you guys in the future can grant easements on across your property to anybody you want to. So I don't, and at that point, you can regulate. Somebody comes down the road and wants to build, build on these other properties. At that point, you can say yes or no. I don't think it's an open-end thing. It's granted to me to build my house and to have access to my property. And that, to me, kind of locks it up.
Well, unfortunately, Mr. Higgins, and
I'm not an attorney.
yeah,
or
we
nothing.
want to help you too. No, but this ordinance wouldn't apply just where there was an easement that had to be granted before you could exercise the rights here. This would apply where somebody had a lot, had a stream on their lot, and could build a road across that stream for purposes of locating a house in a portion of the lot. And there wouldn't be an easement to grant. So its impact would be beyond the circumstances where there were easements in place that we had to grant as a condition to getting here where you are.
Okay, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
at this point, if someone down the road decides, I'm not even sure who the ownership of these other properties are behind it, and from a logistical point of view, it's not practical. The terrain is what it is, and you're gonna get a driveway in there. To get a 12-foot wide driveway with the easement that was granted, it's tight, and, but it's doable. I've already
Right.
had an engineer do a preliminary on it, and it's doable. So that's just all I was commenting on, because to my understanding is, you guys can do whatever, it's your property. I mean, it belongs to, And you could grant an easement down the road to anybody you want, but I have no say in that matter. But right now, the easement is granted to me. And if you want to do multiple easements, multiple grants later, has nothing to do with me. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Higgins. Anyone else? Yes, Kayla?
I just want to address the regulation of the actual stream itself and impacts to the stream. That is regulated by the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. Any impacts, Mr. Higgins' situation aside, would have to be approved by DEQ. And at the town's level, we are not the regulating body for that. So I just want to make it clear to the audience that, you know, the quality of the stream, the protection of the stream is examined by engineers at NCDEQ. You know, Mr. Higgins' project was examined by an engineer there and found to be acceptable. And, you know, the attorney's language options explicitly states requiring correspondence with NCDEQ and the Army Corps of Engineers, who is the other regulating body of waters of the US. Granted, I would require those approvals anyways, but hers explicitly states that you have to seek those entities out. So I just want to be clear about the extent of the town's regulation versus the state and the federal government. So that's just the piece I wanted to add.
Thank you, Kayla. Anyone else? Yes, Mary?
Old age. But at any rate, it sort of struck me, and I know you don't answer questions, but one of the things that came out in reading this and from Kayla's is that the stormwater ordinances don't allow you to go through Board of Adjustments for a variance like we're used to doing. So my question, or if there's an answer, is that something unique to Montreat stormwater ordinances that it can't go to the Board of Adjustments, which would avoid or is that something that's required by the county or the state? Or is there a mechanism at the town level to treat this so that it's handled on a case-by-case basis by the Board of Adjustments? And that was just a thought that occurred to me. I don't have a clue.
All right, Kayla.
The Montreat
We're not going to start a conversation. You can sit down, Mary.
And I'm
your
happy
answer.
to address this in detail later. But just to say generally, the Montreat Stormwater Ordinance is housed in the Montreat General Ordinance. This is not the zoning ordinance. So many communities have what's called a Unified Development Ordinance, and all of their development ordinances are housed in one document, making them all available for things like variances. The Montreat Stormwater Ordinance does not have a variance provision in it. Since it's not housed in the zoning ordinance, you can't use a variance. You can't request a variance to that ordinance. I have seen some stormwater ordinances in my review that do allow variance provisions to be incorporated. However, that is, I think, a far larger conversation than the exception that Gary Higgins is requesting be added to the ordinance in this text amendment.
Thank you, Kayla. Any other comments during public hearing? Okay, I'll entertain them.
I have one. You know, you have sort of a general idea of what the driveway will look like and where it goes. My question is, how much disturbance is going to be made, not by the crossing, but by the driveway?
I'm trying to make it as minimal as possible. I think you have do they have a map of the proposed? Oh, okay. Well, anyway,
I couldn't help.
You have to grade it. We have to put a culvert in. I've been told to put a 60-inch culvert in just to make sure it never washes out if we get the 100-year rain. Normally there's very little water in that creek, barely enough to keep a crawdad alive, I would think. But I was looking at it a couple of weeks ago, and of larger trees, I'd say a tree larger than, say, 12 inches in diameter, I counted 5 that I'd have to take out. My goal is to build this driveway as minimal impact as possible. And then I'm going to build the house on the property. The only grading that'll take place is for the driveway and the parking area. The house is going to be built on the slope. Like I think I said earlier, I live in a forest in Idaho, and me and my wife love trees. And when that's all done, I want it to look like it's been there for 100 years is what I'm trying to do. But I don't know if that answers your question. It's not going to be terribly destructive. The only part right up near the top where we get next to my property, we got to take that dirt, and that'll be the material that's used to backfill the culvert. I don't anticipate it looking, the couple of the pictures, I think that's a way bigger operation than what I'm gonna have. You know, that looked more like a road crossing than a drive, because you gotta realize this is just gonna be one residence driveway, and I don't need, you know, a thing that wide. 12 foot is the minimum for the actual driveway, but it's gonna take more than that, a little bit more than that for the grading, the cut and the fill to get it in there. So, does that help, or?
Well, it helps, but I wish I could see the finished,
You have to see,
plan.
you'd have to walk on the site and really to get a feel for what's, I'd gladly take you up there anytime and show you. So from the road from Harmony down to the creek, it's not terribly steep. It's just gently goes down, and then that's where the culvert would be, obviously, in the creek, and then we go back up. And so what'll happen is when it gets near the top, that material will be used to cover the culvert. So it's very difficult to explain it. I could have brought pictures, but I never didn't think that far along. But if you ever have free time, I'd gladly show it to you if you have a question about that. But like I say, you know, all driveways have some destruction to it. I'd be lying to you if I said there wasn't. So, but that's, our goal is as minimal as possible, which, you know, I think is most people's goal. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Any other comments, public? Okay. Have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Blake to close the public hearing. You'll have a second. Second. Have a second from Commissioner Dasher. Any further discussion on the closing? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes carry. Now, the next item on the agenda, Kayla, is, and you've already really covered that in the public hearing, is what's the commissioners, what's your pleasure on a motion or no motion? Well, we're past the public hearing. We're now into concerning the motion to either adopt it or not adopt it.
I would like to just say, and again, Kayla's done a wonderful job, always does. And Mr. Higgins, I know, has the absolute best intentions. And this language may be fine. I have personally, and I'm just speaking to myself, and I apologize for not having had more time to spend with it. I've spent a lot of time lately on town stuff. It ain't for lack of trying. But I think I need a little bit more time to make sure that we are solving Mr. Higgins' problem. And let me also state, I committed to solving Mr. Higgins' problem. I just don't want to use a sledgehammer when a rubber mallet will do. And I know that the language is been crafted as narrowly as the applicant engineer did a good job. And I think Susan Taylor Rash has made it better. I would like to spend a little bit more time with it, though. And I expressed this to Kayla 2 days ago. I met with her. I told her I just wasn't comfortable. I didn't feel I could vote for it, which is what I want to do, with the amount of time, partly to try to understand what its ultimate impact may be and to make sure that we don't have an unintended impact, which not suggesting there is, just I need to know that, or at least have done my due diligence to figure that out. And Kayla informed me that there was a Planning and Zoning Commission, special Planning and Zoning Commission meeting called for, I believe, next week, that she had put on the calendar in anticipation that there may be a request for this matter to be referred to Planning and Zoning, which development items under a uniform development ordinance would do. We don't have one, but this would be sort of standard operating procedure. And that would give us a little bit more time. It would bring the planning and zoning folks who have dealt with the stormwater zoning ordinance and know some possible impacts or adverse impacts from it and how we can improve it to the extent we need to improve it. And so I would move, and again, assuring Mr. Higgins, we're committed to solving your problem because it needs to be solved. But it would be a slight delay, and I think it would be, from my perspective, I couldn't vote for you if I had to vote tonight, and so I'm moving it because I think it will allow me the time to make sure we are doing the right thing by you and by the town, and so I'll make that motion.
Do I understand your motion to move it to the February 8th town council meeting? The adoption or?
Adoption to the March 1st.
No, February. We are in February, March.
This is February, so
Yep.
it would go to the.
March, not April.
The Planning and Zoning Commission meeting next week to come back to us with a recommendation on, in March, the March meeting.
Okay. March meeting is the 14th of March. Okay. There's a motion to postpone it, the decision on this until the 14th of March. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. Have a motion, have a second. Further discussion?
Yeah, I would say I want to commit to solving this problem for you as well, because I feel like you're in a tough position. I would agree with Mason, Mr. Blake, that ultimately, you know, what we don't want to do is create a bigger problem than something that we don't intend. But we're definitely committed to solving your problem. So.
Any other comments?
And Mr. Higgins, I will take you up on coming down and walking that property.
Yeah, and I'll come as well. I said I'll come as well anytime. Yeah. I live right down the road, so I can walk up.
I can drive up.
Have a motion, have a second.
Hold it. You got one more voice.
Okay, I'm going to ask for it.
You know, folks, we are the only municipality in the area that has an ordinance like this that doesn't have any exceptions in it. Our attorney has looked at it. Our zoning administrator has looked at it and submitted what she and the attorney have tonight. Let's not get into analysis paralysis. Let's support not only Mr. Higgins, but others that may end up doing something like this. And we've got fail-safes in it with DEQ as well as Army Corps requirements. I just say, let's move ahead with it. And I'd vote no on delaying it.
You vote no on what?
On delaying it to March.
I haven't asked for a vote yet, but I'll take it. All those in favor of the motion to postpone it to March?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay. Ayes carry. Next item on the agenda is the nomination of a person to the Board of Adjustment.
Yes.
Savannah?
So we have had Ed Kramer express interest in being appointed to the Board of Adjustment, and I'm hopeful that we will have some more appointees to bring you in March. But for now, I would just ask that you consider the nomination and appointment of Ed Kramer to Board of Adjustment.
Thank you, Savannah. Do we have a motion from the commissioners?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to joyfully nominate Ed Kramer to the Board of Adjustment for a term of 3 years to expire on January 31, 2027.
I have a motion from Commissioner Widmer. Do we have a second?
I'd like to joyfully second it.
I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Blake. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. discussion of the fund balance. Now, this is not to change the fund balance. This is to discuss, when Savannah, when we were talking about the fund balance,
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mayor, but I think we need to vote to actually appoint Mr. Kramer as well.
did we not have a
We
motion?
nominated him. And if we could, and I just needed to make one clarifying point, that this is to a regular seat, not the alternate seat.
Okay.
Do I need to
Want to
change my
redo that motion, Tom?
You just need a new motion to elect.
All right.
Actually appoint, yeah. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I move to appoint Ed Kramer to a regular seat of the Board of Adjustment. Do I need to say that for the term of?
That's great. Thank you. I love it.
Okay. Have a motion from Commissioner Widmer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Blake. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. You've been done twice. Okay. It sounds more like a sentence than an appointment. Fund balance. Savannah, you and Mason?
Yes, I'm going to ask Commissioner Blake to lead us through this conversation. He's done the bulk of the work on it, and
Well, Tom talked about a paralysis by analysis. Well, I'm paralyzed by analyzing this doggone thing. Essentially, I made the mistake of trying to understand fund balance policy, and that's like stepping in quicksand. And the more you move, the deeper you sort of sink into it. But after a great deal of work, in fact, it was this time last month, we were walking out to the parking lot. I said, Tom, I think I finally understand fund balance policy. And the next week, I did some follow-up, and then I came to Savannah, and Rachel said, I think I finally understand fund balance policy. And then we had a long conversation.
Excuse me, Mason, would you folks in the lobby out there be quiet? Your voices are carrying in here. Thank you.
And so I've been in numerous discussions, correspondence, and some telephone conversations, including this afternoon at 4:30 with folks from the Department of State Treasurer that deal with this. And essentially, the department recommends, has a sample policy that they ask communities to consider. It includes two different ratios or measures of fund balance. One is called accessible fund balance, and the other is usually known as, they don't call it that in the policy, but it's usually known as available fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, or the available fund balance policy. What I think I now know and can share with the commission is that only one of these fund balance policies has real consequences vis-a-vis the state and their supervision of our finances. And that's the available fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. Not budgeted expenditures, actual expenditures of the year prior, which is one of the many questions I had you trying to figure out. The accessible fund balance isn't the opposite. It's actually budgeted expenditures. So that's part of the confusion that I dealt with. And I will get details. We now know exactly how to, and confirmed with them today, exactly how to do it, which is without Powell bill funds, which they're still, I'm sure, not sure about, but I'm going to confirm by phone. But we know just how to do this. Our current policy is 34%, 35%. As I told them a month ago, I thought 35% was a gracious plenty. What we've discovered over the past 6-8 weeks looking into this is it's really not. In fact, the current minimum threshold for towns our size is 34%. And part of the problem we've got is we really don't know, because it's not budgeted, it's past expenditures. We really don't know what the final numbers are until after we get there. It's after the year's ended. So 35% doesn't leave us much room. We might really actually want to increase it It's one of the considerations we should give it. And I'll get all of this to the board on a memo, in a memo that I'll be able to finalize now that we had this conversation. But at the very least, this board needs to adopt that fund balance policy with at least 35%. You know, maybe more to give us a better margin of error, shall I say, in terms of winding things down at the end of the fiscal year. The second fund balance policy they've got is accessible fund balance policy. That's a policy which actually creates a reserve fund. It's forward-looking, and it basically says your budget moving forward in a given year can't include whatever amount of money you want to be your reserve. So if we want to make sure we've got $500,000 in funds we can spend for hurricane disasters, you want to adopt that kind of policy to plug that number in. Now, the state doesn't care about that policy. They don't care whether we meet it or don't meet it. They only really care about the available fund balance policy, which is retroactive. So it's complicated, but we've made real progress on it. And I think hopefully we'll need to get our accountants involved, although in looking at the past 3 years of final year-end reports, they've actually got it 2 or 3 different ways too. So the confusion's everywhere, but hopefully we'll be able to move forward with it in the next month.
Thank you, Commissioner Blake, for all of your work on this. It has been confusing. I think we're on the right track now. And, you know, the policies only work and they're only good if we all understand what they're saying and what their purpose is. So we'll keep working on it for as long as we need to until we all are on the same page about exactly what we're doing. But more to come on fund balance.
I knew the day Mason told me that the state didn't know the answer to all of your questions about fund balance, that we weren't in trouble, but they were. It's been a long, hard battle, and it's they have 3 different ways of explaining.
Discussion on that. I taught a class on miscommunication down at the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga. And one of the principles of miscommunication was bypassing, when 2 people use different words to mean the same thing, or the same word to mean different things. And this has been a classic case of that. Let me just talk to our 2 former council members. And you remember the 8% that they said you had to have minimum. Well, they realized that 8% wasn't enough for anybody, much less a small organization like ours. So that's why they went to that formula within the last year. So the 8% is something that they don't even talk about anymore. And just one last thing. There are a few typos that we ought to just talk about in this current draft of the policy.
Okay. Thank you for that discussion, explanation, Savannah, Mason. Next item on the agenda is a revision of the personnel policy. Savannah?
Yes, so the personnel policy, we've discussed it. This is, I think this is a good personnel policy. It gives us the protection we need. It gives the employees the protection they need. It expands a lot of areas of the current policy that were outdated, such as harassment, workplace violence, drug use in the workplace. This has all been blessed now by our town attorneys, and I think we're ready to move forward with it. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has anything.
Commissioners, do you have any questions of Savannah? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt or approve the resolution 24-02-0001 personnel policy revised.
I move to approve the resolution 24-02-0001 adopting the revised personnel policy.
I have a motion from Commissioner Alexander. Do we have a second? Have a second from Commissioner Widmer. Any further discussion and/or questions?
I think Savannah's done an excellent job. I want to congratulate her. This, I think we do have a product here we can be proud of and that will serve the town well.
Is there any blood left in it? We beat it to death.
It's good.
It's good.
It's a good one.
I think,
You talk about analysis paralysis. We've been spending a lot of time with her on this, so.
I know. Thank you,
You're the
Savannah.
one she complains to?
Hardly ever. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Town and state dinner, this is for discussion only. Mason?
Yes. In the past, or at least, I've only been on the commission a couple of years, but last year, the town and state dinner was held in Raleigh, which was a long trip. Jane and I made it, and we had it was a very interesting event, and I thought it was well worth it, despite the 5-hour drive. It really made you appreciate what our state legislators do. Not only do they make less than $2,000 a year, they're going to make that drive a bunch of times. But in any event, this year we have they've changed it and they're doing it on a regional basis. And so we have a town and state dinner that is going to be, and I'm looking for my notes here. Hickory. I believe it's February, or rather March.
April.
All right.
March.
No. Okay, here I've got my notes. Okay, it is April 3rd from 5 to 8 o'clock in Hickory.
that's a perfect.
And I just think I'd like to encourage all the other commissioners to come. Jay and I had a great time. Certainly in Hickory, it's something as many of us can go. We'll meet the members of our legislative delegation. We met Representative Eggert last year, and it was worthwhile. The other thing I want to mention is City Vision is coming up. That's I'm not sure I'm going to go to that, but I don't know, and I don't know whether you're going, Savannah, but everybody needs to know it's April 23rd to 25th in Winston-Salem, which isn't that far a drive, which is an annual meeting that the North Carolina League of Municipalities has. They've got a lot of different seminars, and if you want to get to know people or you're interested in any of the seminars that they'll be putting on, it's an event. It might be helpful if at least someone from the town attends.
I'd like to encourage as many commissioners as can go, especially to the town and state. It's an opportunity for us to meet our representatives and our senators. And when you're asking for money from Raleigh, it's best to know somebody. So how many of us can attend? I would certainly appreciate it. Commissioners, public comment now. Floor is open. Yes, ma'am.
Someone else? All right. I'm Grace Nichols. Let's see, I'm at 527 Swanee Drive. And I just would like to personally thank, as part of the steering committee for the Flat Creek Crossing, the type of professional and time that you have spent with us. So I want to say thank you. Patty Powell would be here tonight, and she has created the atmosphere of the relationship with the town and a town committee, and that's exciting, and we appreciate you, and you're very young and very anxious to get moving with us, and we look forward to it. And I'd also like to commend the commissioners tonight for their thoughtful deliberations and the time spent that you're doing in your homework and giving us, the public, the opportunity to be informed. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Shirley Mitchell, 201 Harmony Lane. I want to thank Ed Kramer, for the treasured tree and for being willing to serve on the Board of Adjustment. I've been there, I've done that, I know that. But thank you. Reference the treasured tree. The specific question is, if people make a donation in order to pay for the plaques, I hope their name doesn't go on the plaque. What is the plan? In other words, if there's
That's a conversation you and Head need to have.
okay, well, but before, okay, can I just make a statement?
We're going to listen.
Okay, I just hope that only the tree is honored and not the name of someone who paid the $50 or whatever for the thing on the tree. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you, ma'am. Who else? Yes, ma'am.
I didn't know if Ed was going to say something. Kayla DeChristina, Town Zoning Administrator. I just want to encourage anybody who has thoughts about the text amendment to come to next week's Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting, February 8th at 10:30. February 13th at 10:30. Come, there is public comment.
That's on Tuesday?
Nope, Thursday.
Thursday. Will that be the 15th?
Wednesday. Angie, what day is it? While Angie finds the date, I just want to stress the importance. If you have thoughts, concerns, questions about this text amendment, please come to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Planning and Zoning Commission wants to hear from you. They want to work with you. We will be there. We will dive into the details. That's all I can ask. And it is, Angie will give the date and time. I don't think it's Valentine's Day either because I didn't buy candy.
No.
I think it's Thursday. It is Thursday because I was supposed to do packets today.
What time?
Thursday at 10:30.
Thursday, the 15th at 10:30.
Thursday the 15th at 10:30 in Town Hall. If you have thoughts about the text amendment, please come.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
If after that meeting next week, and whatever day it is, Thursday or whatever, and you guys alter it somewhat, it all has to get republished again, is that correct?
Kayla?
Yes.
Savannah?
Yes,
So if you change one word, it has to get republished, that
right,
would be
yeah.
my understanding.
But there still should be time to hear it at the March
'Cause I keep
town
looking
council
at-
meeting.
I keep
though.
looking at my timeline, because DEQ has a timeline for cutting a tree down of
Right.
April 1st. And the Army Corps has its timeline for putting the culvert in the stream. And that's what my concern is. I've just been pushed back so far. Maybe I'm just paranoid, but
No, I think
because you have to publish it twice. Is that correct?
right. Just stay in touch with Caleb. But there should be time, even if there are changes, to still have it heard at the next town council meeting. in
That's what my
March.
goal
Yeah,
is.
so.
If we can get this, hopefully.
We'll take care of it in March.
And if you guys, I don't mean to hog the time, you want to see the property, I'm flying back home on Saturday afternoon. I'm free all day tomorrow, and I'm free up until noon on Saturday, if it's available for you. And I'm right here close, I'm 5 minutes from that lot, so
Okay.
you can call me or talk to me after the meeting or whatever you want to do. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thanks, Gary. Anybody else from the public want to speak? Okay.
3 times is probably too many, but it's been on my mind for a while. When we first moved to Montreat, to 192 Mississippi Road, we came with the thought in mind that we would petition to have the right-of-way opened or closed or whatever it is, so that we could have a little more land in our lot and we might be able to add to our house. We've been here now for 5 years, and we have had the wonderful privilege of seeing people stop on the street at the top of our driveway, staring transfixed at the herd of deer that often gather in what we are using as our backyard. It's actually right of way, but we groom it, and it's under the power lines. And I have come around to the idea that the wildlife corridors that our rights of way provide are far more precious than the ability to put in a playpen or a garden or a fence of any kind or any other structure. And we've gotten access to our attic. That'll do us for expanding the house. I think those corridors are precious. And I would really like to urge that we deal with all of these property issues with case-by-case variances and do not go to opening or closing right-of-ways, whichever it is that is the correct language for that, because we have something here that we shouldn't give up. The town has something that we should keep. Thanks.
Thanks, Jane. Anyone else? Commissioners' communications?
Oh, you didn't read.
I managed to find a minute together. The meeting's on the 14th, which is Wednesday, at 10:30. You can bring me Valentine's when we come to the
Okay, is that the price of admission? Okay. Commissioners' communication? Okay, dates to remember. Tree Board, Tuesday, February the 27th at 9:30 a.m. Board of Adjustment meeting, February the 22nd. Ed, 22nd at 5 p.m. in the Town Hall. Land Care, Wednesday, March the 16th at 9 a.m. in Town Hall. March Town Council meeting is going to be Thursday, March the 14th at 7 p.m. Town Hall. Tree Board, Tuesday, the 26th of March, 9:30 a.m., Town Hall. Board of Adjustment, Thursday, 28th at 5 p.m., Town Hall. All those have Zoom options on them. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, Commissioners.
I move that we adjourn.
Have a motion from Commissioner Alexander to adjourn. Do I have a second? I think that was Tom Widmer, Commissioner Widmer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you all so much.